There we go. All right. Well, it's been a long time since I've done one of these, so bear with me. I used to do almost, I've done probably 1,000 of them over the last couple of years. So this message is for everybody that's awake and anybody you think that you can wake up. So this is some information came directly from special forces that I ran into in my local pizza place. And some of it is coming from Mr. Q Phone and a couple other individuals that is in my Patriot group. So this all transpired. I was sitting down with my friend Dave and ordering pizza as we normally do, and that's where we sort of chat. And two guys walked in, and I said, "Look at that." And he says, "What? They're just hunters." I said, "Do those guys look like hunters?" So to make a long story short, he says, "What are you going to say?" And I said, "Well, look at their shoes. They're wearing the same Murder X shoes that the Navy SEALs wear." So I got up, went to the bathroom, and walked by their table, leaned over, and just said, "Hey, thank you guys for serving." And they said, "Thank you very much." And I said, "What are you guys doing up here?" Because they're in full camel gear, brand new camel gear. And they said, "Oh, well, we're out hunting deer, and he's hunting bear." And I said, "Really?" I said, "I thought maybe you'd be hunting reptilians." And the one guy looks up at me with just like utter amazement and says, "There are some nasty creatures down there, isn't it?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "I know exactly what's going on." I said, "The whole fire was a coincidence." I said, it's been managed." And I said, you can't convince me that this isn't a military operation." I said, the very large construction vehicles you're taking back into the virgin forest, which is very close to where my store is. It's only literally about 12-minute drive down a dirt road, very, very turny. So it's really about a crow's leap away from the store, and it's less than 2 miles. And I said, "Yeah, I was just up there." And he looked at me and says, "How did you get into the forest?" I said, "Well, I was up there getting spring water." He goes, "Yeah, but how did you get into the forest?" And I said, "Oh, well, it was early in the morning, and I had all my, stuff in my van, and I came up behind all the trucks that were all moving up very slowly into the forest." And he goes, "Nobody stopped you?" And I said, "No, nobody stopped me." And so I just followed them in, got my water, but I noticed that all the vehicles were parked back there, and they all looked like military contractors. They didn't look like Forest Service because they weren't dressed in Forest Service gear. And one of them looked back at me when I was just putting my last jug in the van, and I thought, you know what, that was kind of weird. I better get the hell out of here. So I left. A couple of vehicles tried to stop me on the way down, but I just kept going very slowly because they were bringing more big, gigantic tractors in, and with big backhoes and all that, this kind of equipment you don't fight fires with. So, and I told that to the two special forces guys, and I said, "Really?" And so I said, "Yeah, I was just showing my friend the alien video that you guys may have seen." And I sent it out to a few people over in the Middle East, and I was telling them about it. And so after Dave left, I sat at their table, and I said, "So, I know this is going on. I know this is going on." And so to try to make a long story short, they did confirm to me that there's now guards in the forest. That's why he said, "Why, had a friend who tried to go up there 2 days after me. He was told to turn around and leave." And so they are digging out the tunnels. This is what I found out from Mr. Q Phone and the compilation of the 2 SEALs and the other people that I've talked to, is that they are digging out the tunnels. Wherever you're seeing these big fires, they're scorch earthing it for the inevitable martial law shutdown. And they are going to, what's the best way to put this? They don't want anything that they can hide behind. So what they're flushing out of the tunnels is not the things we actually really wish were here, but they are. And I have not gotten confirmation yet of what creatures. We do know I was specifically told they're calling them Aliana, which is part human, part alien, black hat experiments that are going to be flushed out of the tunnels. Some places will experience, obviously, earthquakes from the bombs they're putting in there. And they're trying to push them into certain areas for the inevitable extermination. And it just happens, I asked the question late last night during my Patriot meeting, and said, it seems like we are one of the places, and is this what's really going on? Are they flushing them out of the tunnels? At my location, you know where I live. And I said, true or false? He says, true. I gave him no wiggle room, and he did confirm to me that this is what they are going to do all across, I don't know of the world, but I'm certainly in the United States. There's 2 more gigantic fires that were started in Southern Cal, and I'm assuming they must have tunnel outlets there too. And the public is completely unaware of what's coming. The public will be told we're going into World War III. And you're going to see the USS Constitution get attacked. I was told that like 5 years ago. And then it dawned on me when Trump said there's going to be an explosion. I'm assuming he meant the USS Constitution. And so I think that would be your trigger point to make sure that you got all your food and everything you want. But I was told very specifically to take, if the military tells you to stay inside, to stay inside. Don't take it lightly. He says to black out your windows, and to definitely stay inside, and don't go outside. So because they're going to let loose these science experiments, and they want to, I'm saying the black hats are doing this, not the white hats, and they are going to eradicate them. So I'm now reading through the back and forth texting. And I always said I would pass on whatever information I got from the Alliance. He says, do not engage, stay inside, close the windows, block out the outside. He put in parentheses 10 days. I'm sure hoping we don't have to be indoors for 10 days of not seeing sunlight. That's going to be just horrendous. And the reason I'm doing this tape is because I was taking the 10 days of shutdown kind of loosely, meaning I would walk around my neighborhood and da-da-da-da-da-da. Well, obviously, I'm not going to be doing that since I'm going to be one of the areas that's going to be flushed out. So let's see. Okay, so that's about voting. It says they have lost total control inside the storm, and meaning the Black Hats have. He says, notice the world seems a lot faster. He says, fear accelerates the cabal's plans. And he's bringing up the Cuban Missile Crisis and what's happening in Cuba. which is, if you guys know, it's in complete darkness. They have no electricity. I don't know if they still do, but as of last night, they haven't had any electricity. The last date of the missile crisis is the 28th. Trump is supposed to take a stage or make an announcement on the 28th. So let's see, 16th, 28th. I'm sorry, I'm just reading through really quick. I don't want to miss something that he wrote. The Republic is under military power. And of course, he says POTUS already won, which all of us know that. He's saying there's 4 different Trumps. You can tell which one by his tie will tell the story. So, as you guys know, Trump does not appear in the genealogical records. He just sort of magically appears because it's not Trump as you know Trump or think as Trump. And I won't discuss that on a tape recording. So I'll discuss that with this channel separately. He says there are real aliens. They're all interdimensional. Everything you're seeing is smoke and mirrors. Some of this you guys already know. I know. I'm just reading through, okay? He says the Federation cannot be touched. So he says the cage is down. I had to ask what that meant. Nobody knew what that meant. So he says the flash is inevitable. If you have a computer or you have magnetic drives, you should wrap them in either tinfoil or get some Faraday bags. You have a good chance of losing that information. So if you have photographs on the clouds anywhere, including Facebook or any of them, and they're family photographs, you should get them off and don't wait, because they will, when they reset, the whole thing resets. That's one thing we're getting. 2 parallel governments. One's evil, of course, as you guys know, but the evil exposes the evil and wakes up the people that aren't awake. And we're starting to see that, although they're a little bit slow and they're a little bit dense, but at least some of them are starting to wake up. Sorry to say my 2 brothers are not. So they created a cage over the world which blocks the light rays. So the magnetism from the poles have been hijacked. And that's what he's saying. And he says, why do they call you cattle? And I talked back and said, you, period, do you mean us? I said, don't you mean us? I'm sorry. So he says, that is classified. He says, we can show you AI. He says, what you believe is true, meaning I'm right on target so far. There really is not as many people as they lead you to believe, meaning we've all been told by Gene Decode and a few other people that there's a lot of clone hybrids walking around, soulless, is what we're getting from that. He says the reason they cannot dump what we all know, the ones that are more ahead of the other people in Telegram, is because the average person just can't comprehend it. And you guys have all run into those people, so don't worry about it. I sent him the video of the alien over in the Middle East. He says they have always been in the tunnels. And that was the video I was talking to the Navy, to the Special Forces about. And he said that there's some really crazy shit over in the Middle East. And that was his exact words. So I'm trying to quote exactly what they said. Says they are / were human experiments from black sites. So he says, military en masse to stay away. Do not, under any circumstances, engage unless they're trying to engage with you, meaning trying to break through your windows, should you have a worst case scenario. And if you haven't seen the video, you all know that these particular aliens have a tetrodotoxin in their claws, which means you will become incapacitated. And that wouldn't be a good case scenario. So not trying to scare you. The one thing he said is, do not take fear from it. The military and the alliance has this, but they are going to scurry out of the tunnels. And that's why they don't want anybody outside just in case. And they don't want them to be attracted by the light in your home. I particularly have to worry because I'm right next to them, apparently. So if you see lots of military shit going on that you can't explain, and you had fires and you had flooding of tunnels, you're probably in one of those areas. So, but do not have fear, he says, because they're feeding on that. Just like you're not going to have Halloween. So just expect that one. He says they will enact the blue beam. It will look like, he won't tell me exactly, but it's the psyop of all psyops. So most likely it's going to be to stay inside, will be a chemical, nuclear, some form to scare people to stay inside. And the rioters that are paid terrorists will riot. And obviously the aliens that come out, they will take care of it all. So he's saying some of it is fake and some of it is real. The real part is obviously the terrorists getting paid and whatever scurries out of the tunnel. The fake part is they got to scare the normal public into thinking that if they go out, the military could shoot them. That's why Biden and Kamala Harris announced that they have released all military engagements with the public, meaning that they have the right to shoot. So let's see, what else? So on another note, the two parallel governments, meaning is they are setting up everything. So when we come out of this, everything has been flipped. And nothing more sort of needs to be done. As everyone knows, the XRP meetings are this week. We believe they will be enacted. We already know that the United States is part of BRICS. It was in the 159 countries. And and we already know banks in the United States are using it. So there's no question on that one. But I've always said that XRP's got to go before we go, and it certainly looks like we're going after the shutdown. When exactly is the shutdown? They will not give me a date. I keep asking. But he did say that Trump is going to make a statement, it looks like on the 28th. My guess is the USS Constitution will be attacked. He will say that Biden and Kamala are getting us into World War III because he has to go along with that story to let and make sure everybody stays inside so the military can do their job without having innocent people be involved. So on that note, we did get confirmation from a high-ranking military officer down in Long Beach that Trump is the president. He does not take orders from Biden, and that it's all to keep the public why they reset, which is the double government, right? Two parallel governments going, mimicking the Civil War, et cetera, et cetera. So if you guys all know history, flip it 180, and that's probably what we're seeing. So anyway, and on that note, I think I covered everything. I'm trying to think what else was in there. We have a The reason we know this is a massive military operation right here is because our local ski resort called Snow Valley, which isn't in our town, it's just outside of our town. There's no city around it. There's no town around it. There's no houses around it. It's sort of like between two towns, our town and Running Springs, is a massive military encampment. And we're seeing during the fire, they brought in National Guard, or we believe they were National Guard, with Humvees and 50 cows mounted on the roof. And they sat on the dam looking down the canyon as the fire was coming towards the dam, and like they were looking for something. And that's why we thought, well, that's kind of weird. You know, never seen that in any fire we've ever been through. But that large military encampment is just literally 8 miles from our town, and they've got it all fenced off. It's lit up like a Roman candle. All military equipment, all military tents, etc. No firemen are there, but they're still trying to say that it's the fire department's, which we know is a lie. So at that point, I'm happy to take any questions. I don't know if we have many, but
yeah. PW, I've got a question. This Road Angel here. Same thing happened up in the western part of North Carolina, Tennessee, flooding the tunnels and stuff like that. Was that pretty much the same thing, flooding out these satanic?
Yeah, a lot of those bodies, I'm being told by QPhone, were clones that were being washed out of the tunnels. It's very difficult to figure out what really is going on there, because we have reports that there's FEMA camps. We report it. Remember, there's two things: that they're trying to catch all the evil people, at the same time trying to protect the civilians. But this is a war, and unfortunately, I'm sure that there were some innocent people hurt, because there always is in a war. But they're trying to minimize it as much as possible. And I hate to use Spock's quote, needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. And this is a one and done war, meaning they want this ended, and they want it ended now. I mean, so I suspect that most of this, you will be seeing a lead up to this. And we all know the stock market crash in 1929 started on the 29th. So what would instigate the big crash? My guess is war, world war. And they take down the entire system. The dock strike was to reset us back to common law, and because they had to lawfully shut down the docks for a certain period of time to reset them under whatever that original Admiralty law was, to reset them back to common law and get rid of law of the water, which is the transportation of all merchandise, right? So anyway, yes. Anybody else? Nothing? I covered everything? Really?
Hi, TW. This Dragonfly.
Yeah.
I'm up here in the Midwest, kind of away from everybody. But is there anything I should be prepared for? I mean, I don't foresee a lot of tunnels up here, but I might have some like in Nebraska. But
Well, we know there are some in Racine. Look, there's tunnels all over the place. The question is, where are they pushing them? And that's what I think you just have to look around your area. Look, because of where I am, I have to sort of take this a little bit differently. But am I going to do I have all my food? Yeah, I have almost all my food. I just went shopping. I got gas in all of my vehicles. I have all my guns loaded. And I will take my gigantic artwork that I make, and I will just cover up my windows and and blockade the door. I'm hoping my daughter will heed the warning, and I'd like to have her up here personally. But I got a little bit different situation because I'm right next to one. But we know one thing: the aliens love warmth, so they're always near hot springs, volcanic activity, things like that. And we have hot springs, right on the front side of the mountain. And I wouldn't be surprised there's not one right down that valley. But there's certainly a tunnel that goes over there, so we know that. So yeah, I'm just, look, I'm planning for the worst, but I'm not going to have any fear because I'm pretty sure we're going to have massive amounts of military here. And I saw the gunships flying in over top of Big Bear late this afternoon. I thought that was very interesting. Heading right at the ski resort too. So, and there's a couple of them at our local airport. So, I would just say make sure your guns are loaded if you have them, and if you've seen the movie Signs and you've seen the movie Cowboys and Aliens, then I think pretty much. I think Signs is a lot more relevant here, but
GW, Mama
Yes.
5 wants to know, do you see Bluebeam and lockdown before the 5th of November? And do you see an election on the 5th of November?
No, there's no election. That's been told, and now other people have been saying. I've been saying that for 2 years. So, because Mr. Keephone told me there would be no election, and that we already know the Brunson case was already ruled on, et cetera, et cetera. So we all know that. Although there are some channels in here that they don't even know the RV is going on. So I'm just blown away by that. I didn't know there was channels in Telegram that were really just focusing on one thing only. So I guess that's the best way to put it. So, but it is going to happen. I'm still hearing October is October, and that's OVER. In case this tape recording is a little bit fuzzy.
Now,
So
how does the purging of these? Go ahead.
when all this starts, is it pertinent that they say you have 6 hours to get home? Like if
we're still hearing that, but I'm going to tell everyone that when you see, because I believe USS Constitution, which I read 5 years ago, and you know that most of the stuff I read has come true, and is now all coming to fruition. And I'm believing, and I think the USS Constitution left its dock today or yesterday, will be attacked, and that's the sign of our Constitution, right? That's sort of the our heritage of the Constitution and the winning of the war. So that's supposed to unify the people, and at least that's what I was told. And if that happens in the next few days, because I think that's the lead up to war, right? I doubt that they're going to blow it up and then we only have 6 hours, but they might. We just don't know. But I don't understand why Trump would be taking and making an announcement on the 28th. So now remember, this is event driven, so hopefully nothing will get delayed. We're at the end of this. I think all the chess moves have been done. And hate to refer it that way because I know there's some people that were seriously hurt. So anyway, anybody else?
Yeah, Tim, how does purging of the tunnels and the creature stuff relate to purging of our government and taking it back?
Government's already.
What's going to happen with the government?
It's being reset. We're already back into common law. We're already in the republic. They just haven't told the public. That's going to be the 10 days. So I think that's part of the other thing is they want to scare the people to stay inside. So they watch that 8-hour film that's repeated 3 times in a day. So they get it through their skull that they've been lied to so tremendously that when they come out of this, they'll be so much farther ahead. So it just has to be done that way. I'm very interested to see how they tell the story. But as you guys know, there's lots of great producers that supposedly died and lots of great actors. And there's lots of great actors that are playing roles right now all over the country, playing governors and senators and all kinds of things. So anyway.
So basically, the tunnels, the government, and the EAS is going to go in conjunction all together in one shot during that 10-day period.
Yeah, I think it's going to be they're already apologizing. Some of you I sent some information to that they're already apologizing. There are going to be earthquakes. If you have any family heirlooms you don't want to fall off the wall and break, or shelves or whatever, take them off, because you don't know where the bombs are going to be. Because if they're trying to push things to a certain area, most likely it will be a succession of bombs, like a domino effect, to push them. Why the military, when they come up, they annihilate them. And I'm assuming we will certainly have a field of motherships above us getting help from Palladians, Octurians, Venetians, etc. So anyway, I know this all sounds weird, and some of the people in Telegram are not up to speed, but I think you are going to be getting a really good, poignant EBS, and it should be, and the blue beam will look like there are nukes going off in the sky, etc. There are no nukes. They've all been dismantled by the Alliance, or I should say the Galactic Federation. But this is to minimize the least amount of innocent casualties as possible. Hopefully I said that correctly. Anyway.
Do you think they take down the 34 buildings of Santanism during this time?
I don't know. I didn't broach that subject. I really don't care when they take them down. I just want them down. So, who's your lady? Please go ahead.
Yeah, I know you was talking about, the blackout windows, that there would, be these beings or entities or whatever the hell you want to call them. You can shoot the bastards, right? They do
If they
kill
try to
like
get in your
humans.
house, you shoot the bastards.
Yeah, right. Okay.
And believe me, I'm not trying to scare anyone.
Right.
But you guys know my favorite quote in the world is by Coach Wooden. Failure to prepare is preparing to fail. So you better, if you have them, load them. You don't know.
Yeah, I'm loaded. I guess my main question is that you can kill them like you can a human. So that was my
Anybody
question.
tries to get into your house, you shoot those bastards.
Absolutely.
Because they're going to be terrorists. And look, we know there's a bunch of you guys and gals that live in cities. There's going to be rioting. We already know. Look, they put that list out of 67 different cities. 17 of them, 17 of the big ones are going to be where there's NFL stadiums. I don't have the list. Otherwise, I'd read them off. But we know that, and because most of them are where they rioted last time. Those were the paid protesters. What we don't know is, look, we know there's underground tunnels underneath LA. Everyone saw those videos. Hell, in 1920, the LA cover of the LA Times, I think it was August edition, said that there was an underground reptilian city below LA. How that got lost in time, I don't know. But we know that there's underground. Now, we know that the Getty is probably what they nicknamed the gateway to hell, because they found up to 1.8 million people underneath or were there. And they said it was only 4 or 5 miles from LA Rams Stadium. and that's about the right distance. So I would assume it's the Getty. We know Disneyland, we know Disney World, but most major cities have tunnels. So you guys have all seen the maps that Gene Decode put out of the underground DUMBs. So better to be prepared. That's all I'm trying to say. But don't create fear, because they're feeding on that. That's what horror films do. That's what rooting at football games, right, and all that stuff does. They're feeding off our energy. So please don't give them any. I think that's why they're going to do this before Halloween. So I'm planning on, it could be any time. My guess it'd be after the XRP convention is over, which ends on the United States the 24th, because it's over in Russia. And that's a big thing to reset the currencies of the world, is XRP and XLM. So anyway, anyone else? I don't want to make this thing too long. I want it because my goal is that every one of you send it out to as many people you know personally, and everybody puts it on every channel as many times as they can, so everybody gets to see it or hear it, I mean, and takes heed. That's the only reason why I'm doing this. I never thought I'd be doing another chat, but I've always said I will share what I get, and I thought this was important enough because I was blowing off you got to be locked in. I was planning on going for runs, walking, all of that stuff, even going up to the forest to get water, but I didn't know at that time that there was a massive alien tunnel not too far right behind the virgin forest. And nobody ever goes back there behind the virgin forest. They only go to the virgin forest. So that makes total sense. And nobody ever goes down that valley because it's so steep. You just can't, it's almost impossible to walk down there. So I get it, Anyway, please go ahead if anyone else has another question.
Okay, let's take this opportunity to end the chat. Today's date is Monday, October 21st, 2024. The time of the chat was approximately 9:07 p.m. Eastern time, and the chat is ending right now at 9:48 Eastern time. Thank you to everyone that joined. I'm going to end the chat right now. Thank you, TW. Appreciate you.
Sure. So I didn't want to get into, did you click that off, Road Angel?
Working on it. Give me a minute.